Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thank you for checking out the 5th episode of the Skyward cast. Here with my co-host Delvin Cox. What's going on, man?
Hey, yo, we light a candle, run laps around the English Channel. Neptunes, I got a cocker spaniel.
Who the heck was that?
That's Noriega.
I only know
Super
one of his
Thug.
songs, man. Super Thug.
And it's probably that song.
Super Thug.
It's literally that song.
That sounds so corny.
Oh my God.
Super Thug. Jeez.
Yes, it's his debut hit single. Neptunes produced it.
Really?
The chorus is literally what?
What was that one song where it had like that it was like it had like a flute going in the background?
You talking about homeboy? I came to party.
That song. Yeah, that's the only song.
That's nothing. That's what it's called.
Yeah, that song was kind of fire. But other than that, I don't know any songs of his.
How you don't know Super Thug?
Look, I know of him. I just don't know.
But that's the song that everybody knows him from, Super Thug. That's the song that literally put the Neptunes on the map.
Hey, we do
this is so disappointing.
We do this every episode, man. I'm not. Look, a lot of those dudes, I only know what came on the radio, and I don't remember Super Thug ever touching the radio.
Super Thug was a huge hit on the radio.
Maybe I'm just not remembering it. Like, what's the rest of it? Like, give me some more of it, so I'm like, maybe I get.
If you want to keep this podcast rated G, I think I don't need to give the rest of it. I can give the chorus. That's about it.
Hey, you don't have to necessarily keep it G.
What? That's literally the chorus.
Really? Well, that's not the best clue, but hey, you know what? That's fine.
Oh my God.
So what's been going on with you this week, man?
Nothing much, man. Just being me, podcasting like crazy. Everything been good, man. Last time we did episode was quite a while ago. Since then, my birthday's passed, so that's a good thing. I live to be older age.
Hey, well, that's always good, man.
Yeah.
I have another day to do 10 billion more podcasts.
Exactly. It's all part of the plan.
Become podcast king.
So Michael B. Jordan can eventually run up on me and say, "Is that your king?"
Oh God.
That's gonna happen one day.
He didn't say it like that though.
No, not like that.
Where'd that accent come from, man?
I don't know where that accent came from. I think I tried to mix Michael B. Jordan with T'Challa.
Oh God.
I forgot he's the American one in the movie.
Oh man. Well, I mean, as far as my week, it's been pretty cool.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I finally completed my GED test.
Congratulations, man! That's an accomplishment.
Yeah, it felt cool because it took forever, man. It took a lot. It took a lot of time for me because I was just overthinking it, especially when it came to the math. I knocked out the other ones, but when it came to math, it was like, oh God, I've never been good at math. I got to study, and so then I got into this class and I got books, and I probably could have did that math like 4 months ago, but
well, so let me ask you, what stopped you from getting your diploma before, your high school diploma?
Around that time I'd been dealing with severe anxiety and depression, and so that really got in the way. That it started getting to the point where I started having panic attacks, and so
Wow.
I actually had to stop going. So yeah, that pretty much is what stopped all that. So that got put on hold for a long time.
Wow. Well, you seem to be doing a lot better now, so that's a good thing. You seem to be in a better place.
Better than a couple weeks ago. It was starting to get really rough again, but yeah, it's been pretty good. So I've just been kind of
just
taking it a day
know
at a time
about you and appreciate you every day, man.
Thank
I
you,
think
man.
we kind of lose focus of that sometimes. I said I'm speaking for everybody who listens to this podcast. People love you, man, and I may crack jokes on you sometimes, but I love you. You're my family. I ain't gonna put you out there like that, man.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that.
No problem, man. Congratulations, man. That is awesome, man. You got your GED, man. That is great.
Yeah,
so what's the game plan now?
I don't know.
GED opens doors.
Yeah, I mean, especially when I know it's like I was trying to get work. I was trying to get work and so much crap now that didn't actually require GED years before. I know because I was actually looking, but at the time it was really hard to work because of the same problem, dealing with severe anxiety and also agoraphobia, which that's kind of makes it really difficult to just go outside.
What is it again?
What's agoraphobia?
What is that?
It's like basically I get severe anxiety when I go out of my comfort zone, right? So it's like imagine there's like a big line drawn in the ground all around like where I live. And once I get past a certain point, it's almost like your natural sirens start going off in your head saying, oh, there's danger past this point. You know what I mean? I start feeling anxious and just, you can get lightheaded. You can feel, it's just a whole bunch of different symptoms. You can feel physical symptoms where you start to feel shaky. And yeah, it's just like everything, your whole fight or flight mode just kicks in for no reason, just because it's like you feel like it's not safe going past a certain point. And so I dealt with that for a long time, for years. I mean, it got to the point where like I basically I wouldn't leave. I wouldn't go outside of my apartment for like sometimes I'd only leave like maybe once a month. Like it got really bad. I just wake up inside, go to sleep inside, do the same thing every day, day after day after day. And yeah, but
so yeah, I never know this. This is fascinating to say the least, and it has to be horrifying in a sense.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. I mean, I can laugh now because it's like, well, that's a lot of that stuff is behind me. But yeah, but at the time, it was pretty terrible. Yeah, I had been doing a lot of stuff over the years. It's like it really kicked in when I was like 17, but since then it kind of went through a cycle of, as I said, anxiety, depression, and then OCD, which OCD is kind of what kicks in to make the whole agoraphobia a thing, because it's like it's like an unrealistic obsessive fear that kind of keeps you boxed into that, but you can't really control it necessarily. I mean, if I could, I'd just flip the switch and go off and do what I want to do. But yeah, so that's how that went.
Do they give you any meds for that or something like that?
It's I have some that I just take like if I need it, but over the years I've noticed that just like therapy and just doing like exposure therapy, basically just gradually working my way out past my comfort zone so that I start to adjust, works a little bit better. Because it's like I could take the medication, but if my mind is still in the same spot, the fears are still going to be there. So it just it just works better with therapy. But so I do have it just in case.
How is that even possible to even like find a simple task of finding a job?
Yeah. I mean, it's like I haven't. I mean, well, a lot of the time, like for the last couple of years, my whole thing has been like, okay, well, if I can't leave, try to find an at-home job, and that hasn't really worked out for me because, like I said, like in recent time, like a lot more jobs require at least a GED. So that was one of my main things behind it, because it's like, well, I can't even do that if I don't have a GED. So I at least needed to complete that, which I mean I could do because I could always get assistance with getting there and getting back, you know what I mean, in order to take my tests, or if I needed to go to a class or something. So yeah, it hasn't been easy at all. They make it really hard. I mean, I guess they don't really think about people that have situations like mine because it's not very common. But yeah, all those extra conditions that they have on these jobs, it's like, well, I can't really do that if I'm in this situation. But yeah.
Yeah, it's so many things that I'm just thinking about that could come with that. Like you, like the whole school thing and the whole job thing and the whole not even that things, but like just meeting people in general.
I mean, I kind of go through periods of time where it's like I have really bad social anxiety. So yeah, I mean, and I didn't even realize it back in the day. Like when it first started up, like I just go into situations and be like, why am I sweating so much? Why am I, it's like, like when you feel like you just had a whole bunch of caffeine. It's like I'd get that feeling. And I'm like, I'm not really understanding it because I didn't know what it was back then, but I'd just be sweating a whole bunch. And I'm like, I must look crazy. Like I just ran a mile to get here. Like if I had an appointment or just going somewhere, that involves like some type of interaction with someone that I didn't know. But it would just happen. And but over time I started to get it. And I just kind of had to prepare for that. So it's not such a big deal. I guess that kind of like involves like not too much visualization because it's like if you actually overthink it, then it can become this big thing, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna do it. It's like I'm making it seem like I'm about to go on this big mission, but I'm just about to go talk to somebody for just a couple minutes. But it can feel like that in my mind for no reason.
Well, let me ask this. Well, not to get too personal, but we're getting personal already. Get set this whole big thing, so we might as well get into it. How does this affect your like love life, man? Because you have to go like you're. For those who haven't seen Joy King's a good looking man. I'm not even joking. Like I look at this guy. Like, why am I podcasting with him? He's so good looking. I look like me.
All right, man.
How are you going out beating the ladies if you have this problem?
Though that doesn't really happen too much. Look,
that's
just like with any other interaction, it's like it pretty much just happens online. You know what I mean? And I don't really open myself up to that kind of interaction because it's like I know I can't follow through. It's like I could start it, I could initiate it. I'm like, hey, try to introduce myself and we start having a cool conversation. But eventually, it's going to get to the point where it's like, okay, well, all right, we've been talking this long. Hey, let's meet up. Like, okay, I can't get there. I don't have the resources to do all the things that I want to do. So yeah, that's not gonna happen. So I just mostly everything.
Do you explain the situation to him?
I don't do that because I mean, there's nothing really. Like I said, it never really goes that far. I just interact with everyone just like on a friendship level. Like if we're cool, we could talk, but I never actually do that because I know it's not gonna go to that point. Or at least I don't really feel because of my situation, I don't feel secure enough to actually do that. It's just like I feel so limited in what's possible right now. So it's like I wouldn't even want to I don't know. I wouldn't even want to bring anyone into my situation to be affected by my limitations. So I feel like it's like I want to work it out and then move forward.
But yeah, it's yet and still, man. You're a guy. You kind of have to at some point want some type of companionship, and I can't blame you for that.
Of course, you want companionship, or you want to interact with people like that. But it's like if the situation doesn't allow, well, what can you do? You just continue to work on it until you feel like you got to that point. I mean, like if I was, of course, it'd be a lot easier if I had interactions with a lot of people that really understood the situation. But it's like I think about it like how I thought about it before I actually had to deal with it personally. I mean, I wouldn't actually understand it. I mean, I heard the word anxiety or depression, but I mean, I didn't really understand it completely until I dealt with it personally. So for someone to have to understand that I can't do this or I can't do that because of what's going on, I mean, my family doesn't even really understand it, and they've been here, it's like all these years. So I can't really expect someone that I'm just meeting to just get it. Now, if they have some, some people are more understanding, they're willing to really dig into it and kind of look past what they think is going on the surface. And but most people aren't. So I mean, it's not really, so it's just I don't really want to bring anyone in that situation. So I just kind of want to work on it, deal with myself, and then go to that point. You know what I mean? Like, so that's not even
Yeah.
like really like a top priority. Like, it's just like things like getting my education, or actually getting a job and finding self-security, and then that stuff kind of comes after. Like, it'll just happen.
Yeah, and it's interesting to think about it because you have something that it's almost unbelievable. Like for example, I was to tell my wife this, she'd be like, BS. No way nobody has to go through that. But it's a real problem.
Yeah.
It sounds like something off of TV, like something that you would see off a TV show, like one of those, like those shows you see on A&E.
Yeah, I mean, it is, I mean, some of this stuff, it's like crazy to just sit back and think about it. Like I've gone through like serious OCD, like people, they talking about, oh, I have to flip the switch 6 times and do this and that. Like those rituals, like I never understood it until I felt like I had to do it. Like, and the justification for it is so ridiculous. Like, you'd feel like, okay, well, it's like this fear that I'm going to have a nervous breakdown or something bad is going to happen if I don't complete these things. And in your mind, that this sounds ridiculous, but you feel like, well, I don't even want to deal with the stress of having to worry about a what if. So I'm just going to do it anyway because it feels like it's easier, even though it's not. They're both stressful. It's just this one seems like the quick solution. So, if I was like reading a book, it's like I'd have to read the lines multiple times because it's like I didn't want to forget where I was and then have to worry about the fact that I didn't actually complete it or fully understand it. So then it's like, okay, well, if I forget where I was, then I can't actually go back and reread it. So then I can fully understand it. And then there was this fear like, oh, well, if I can't actually go back to where I wanted to go and actually, read up, I can't even talk. it's hard to explain. It doesn't make sense, but it's just basically, I just wanted to set it all up. And if I didn't actually get it right, I felt, there was this fear that I was just basically going to my mind was just going to crash because I couldn't actually go back. So I would read it again and again and again and again to the point where I felt like I was satisfied and then move forward. So you can imagine how that would slow down actually reading. So reading a book, if you had to read each line 10 times, you're not going anywhere for a long time. So I had to do that. Or if it's like, okay, I'm watching a TV show, it's a similar thing. I hated having a DVR. Like I felt like if I didn't have a DVR at the time, I wouldn't have had the option and I wouldn't have to worry about it. But because I did, it's like, okay, well, it's like, what did that guy say right there? Oh, I didn't catch that. And it's like, okay, well, go back and just rewatch it because if you don't hear it, then you're going to be thinking about it the whole time. It's going to ruin the whole experience. Or if you forget the point, then whatever, all this irrational stuff. So I just keep hitting the jump back 10 seconds button again and again and again and again. It got so bad to like where it actually took me 4 hours to complete a 1 hour show.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yep. That's is crazy. And I mean, I'm glad I'm past that point, but just thinking about it, it's like, geez, that's wild that actually happened.
But I think it's good that you're talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, I've never actually shared any of that stuff with anybody online. I mean, I've talked about it a bunch, sure, with different like professionals, on the topic,
Yeah.
so they can, so I can get some help with it. But yeah,
Well, I
I mean,
think it's
mhm.
commendable to say the least that you're talking about it on this podcast. I'm quite sure there's somebody out here who's probably dealing with something similar. And hearing you talk about it's probably helping them.
Yeah, I mean, I that'd be great, to actually have someone hear it and feel like, oh wow, I didn't know that other people were going through it too. I mean, because I noticed that when I was dealing with it really really bad, um, and you don't really understand it. I mean, you feel like you're going crazy or something. You know what I mean? It sounds crazy, but if you don't understand it and you can't look up a symptoms list, which sometimes is actually worse for you. If you look up a symptoms list, you might actually self-diagnose yourself with something, you know what I mean, that you don't even actually have. So
Oh,
for
I'm
people
well
that
aware.
yeah,
I
so
am the king of looking up things on WebMD and WebMD telling me I'm dying.
I couldn't do that, man. I had to stay away. But in some cases, I mean, it's actually helped because this is actually stuff I was really going through. So to look up a list of anxiety symptoms or depression symptoms, and it's like to just actually see, and the fact that I could look at it and it's like 90% of this stuff I actually can understand. You know what I mean? Like this actually happened to me. It just made me feel a little bit more comfortable. Like, okay, well, at least I know it's not something, I guess, bad, but it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. And there's other people that actually deal with it. And, I can get help and possibly get past this one day. So,
And didn't you just move recently?
yeah.
So how was it like dealing with moving? Because that's a big change, and especially in your condition.
Um, well, this time, no, it's like, it wasn't too bad this time. Now, the first time I moved dealing with that, it was a little rough. Um, because it's kind of like, well, you have no choice but to be forced out, for a long period of time. So, I just kind of had to deal with it. I don't even remember how I dealt with it. That time period is just kind of like all smashed together. It was just a whole bunch of stuff going on. Um, but the last move, it was a lot easier. A lot of the stuff I was dealing with, it wasn't as bad. It's like things kind of go through a wave, you know what I mean? Sometimes it might get really good to the point where I can actually go way past the point where originally I would start to feel anxious just by going outside, or I can go places alone, or and then for whatever reason it kind of just comes back really bad, So around that time it was actually pretty good. Um, so it wasn't really difficult at all. But
Wow.
yeah.
That's fascinating to say the least, man. It's crazy that you have to go through that. And well, this episode didn't deserve topics. I'll tell you that right now. This is a topic among itself. This is the episode, man. Just talking about this it's amazing.
Well, look, I didn't plan on going into my
That's
whole mental health history, but hey, I guess
it's
that's just how it worked
hey,
out.
hey, man. This is awesome to say the least. It's not awesome for what you're going through, but it's
Mm,
awesome that you're able to have that voice to speak out about it and to talk
mm,
about something that you've been kind of plagued with most of your life.
yeah, I mean it's. I mean, as I said before, I mean, if someone actually could listen to it and and be like, wow, someone else is going through that, or I never actually knew that people go through that. So if you actually do come across someone that is going through something similar, where so you kind of are more open to digging into it and kind of, you know, getting some more information about it so you don't, make a whole bunch of judgments. It's like, oh, well, you should be able to do this or that. That's not that serious. Cause I've had that happen, especially earlier on. I mean, a lot of people just thought like I'm just being lazy or that shouldn't be a big deal. You can push past that. Or everyone gets what is it? Everyone gets depressed sometimes. Yeah, it's not that kind of depression that just the average person goes through. It's not that just kind of anxiety because a lot of people you get anxious in situations. It could be a good situation, a happy situation. It's like surprised, or you go on vacation, you're not sure how it's going to go. You're anxious, but you're happy. It's not that kind of anxiety. It's a totally different thing. So,
Yeah,
but
does well to bring it back to gaming? Does gaming help with it?
hmm? Yeah, you kind of
Does
broke up a
gaming
little bit.
help? I would say, bringing it back into gaming. Does gaming help with your problem? Like online gaming with people and just communicating like that.
Gaming does help. I noticed lately it's like I haven't been able to focus as much on gaming. Like a lot of things that kind of used to be really important. Oh, it's just hard to focus as much. It's like, yeah, I want to play this game. I've been wanting to play this game for a while. I want to get into it and just give it all my attention, but it's just hard to actually focus because my mind is going here and there, or it's just with anxiety, it's just hard to be settled, and to just give your attention to just one thing for a long period of time. So for a while, I wouldn't really play games that I couldn't just jump in and um, just play for a little bit and jump off. So I think that's probably why I got so heavy into Warframe because it's even though that does require a lot of grinding, it's like you could jump in, play for a little bit, jump off, and come back in. But story driven games, I kind of fell back on those a lot. So, but yeah, gaming does help. It kind of helps as a distraction because sometimes we get so caught in your own thoughts, you can make things worse. So it just helps to just have a distraction. Um,
It seems like games like The Witcher would be like a bitch to play. If you
yeah,
if you're OCD, that game has to be like awful because there's so much stuff to do in a game like that, like RPGs in general, and you're trying to do all that stuff, even though people don't realize when you RPGs aren't meant to be played like that. You're not meant to really go down everything that's in the game and do that.
yeah, I didn't. It's like when it comes to games, like the OCD thing never really comes into gaming.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, I never really had it at that point in gaming. Now it's like I've had anxiety. I've had so like when it came to social interactions, just in playing games, like I used to avoid that. Like I used to just I didn't like the stress of having to because one, you're just tossed into a room, like especially if you're playing like a raid. If you're playing a raid on like Destiny or something, you're in there with six people, and when it was really bad, I felt like I had to plan everything I was gonna say. So if I was going into a situation, I would actually it's like the conversation is like a tree, right? And so I'd be planning out all the different ways it's gonna go. So imagine like all these different branches going off. Okay, so if the conversation goes here, this is what I'll say. And if it goes that way, then here's the response. So everything had to be planned, right? But if you're getting thrown into a situation and you can't plan for it, then a whole bunch of anxiety comes. So some of that stuff I would avoid or just play with no mic, which it didn't really work out too well. So I mean, I'd get over it a lot of times, but that for a minute that wasn't really too fun for me.
Well, yeah, I can see now that I think about it. Your anxiety shows up sometimes. It don't show up on the podcast, but it shows up in preparation for the podcast.
Yeah, yeah,
Because you're
all that.
always like, hey, you're always like, hey, well, I need like 10 topics. I'm like, no, we just go live. This is a little bit this is a little bit peek behind the curtains where Joey's always the type of guy who's like, hey, we need like 5 or 10 topics for the show. Or we can't do the show. And I'm like, no, we don't. We just can go live, bro. It's us two friends talking, and people love it just the spontaneity of the show.
I mean, and that's cool, and I love to hear when people give feedback. So if you're listening, of course, always, if you're checking out the podcast, I love to hear, I'd love to see your tweets and comments on anything, because it kind of gives me an idea of what works and what doesn't. Which, of course, in that case, then it's like, okay, well, this works, so then I'll go that way. So it gives me more of an idea of what, so I don't have to worry about it as much. Not to say like you need to do that to help me with my own issues, but it's just saying I'm sure that this works that same way for anyone when they're trying to figure out what content to actually produce. It's hearing audience feedback is really helpful. But
Well,
yeah,
I'm gonna tell you right now, this is gonna be a lot of people's favorite episode.
I don't know about that, but
I almost guarantee it. When you open up and you tell people real life experiences, me listen to this episode, I'm amazed by what I'm hearing. So I know if I'm enjoying listening to it, it's gonna be a lot of people's favorite episode.
I mean, hey, well, that would be cool. I'd love to, like I said before, if it can help, if it can just open people up to just an idea of things that they never really understood that people go through. I mean, I made it like my mission a long time ago, like to give off this kind of vibe of like being normal. Like that's why I don't really talk about it too much. It's still a habit. I mean, I've been more open about it sometimes, but I'm still 90%. So sure, I mean, 90% of the people don't really, they didn't know any of this. Because even when I did talk about it, it'd just be kind of brief. I'd just go over it. Yeah, I've been going through some anxiety or however I would put it. But yeah, I would never really go into it because I was always kind of like worried that, well, that's a part of social anxiety, that I didn't really want to stand out. I didn't want to be seen as, I don't know if people would see it as like a handicap, you know what I mean? And I just wanted to basically just be seen as just a normal guy. Yeah, I'm going through some stuff, but I'm the same as anyone else. And, and I didn't really know how people would take it because people haven't always taken it the way I wanted it, that they should, or that I would hope that they would. So it's just like, in order to bypass that, they don't need to know. Yeah. But yeah.
I think you said it perfectly right. Yeah. I can't say nothing else about it. You hit it right on the head, man.
What am I going to title this podcast? Like, because I wasn't planning this at all.
I don't know, man. I have no clue what we're going to title it. It doesn't matter, man. This is just, you can title it my favorite episode in terms of Delvin, just literally Delvin's favorite episode. That's what it is. Emotional, it's deep, it's impactful, it's important. It opens your eyes. It's like, this is awesome. This is what I came into podcasting for. Yeah. And I sincerely mean that. Like, to talk to people and hear their stories and then learn interesting facts about people and understand their side of the things. Because we always hear one side of things without hearing the other side of things, When people hear, oh, I have anxiety problems, they just hear, oh, I have anxiety. They don't know what causes the anxiety. They don't know how deep the anxiety is. So when you hear somebody explain the whole story, then you realize, whoa, this is bigger than I thought it was. This isn't just, just you being a baby. This is serious. This is debilitating. It opens your eyes.
Yeah. Hey, I hope there are a lot of people that could get something from this. I don't know how many people are going to hear it. But yeah. I mean, not to be all super, up, man. Yeah, not to be all super silent. I don't know. It's just, I guess, just thinking about all that stuff, explaining that, because a lot of times, like, not even on purpose, but it just kind of, all that stuff just kind of gets swept away. Like, I don't really think about all the stuff I've gone through because one is just, it's a lot. You know what I mean? Like, that is just like, I don't even know if it was like 10% what I just said. So it's just like all that stuff, worrying about it all the time, thinking about it, or, it's just, it can become overwhelming. So just to, explain why I've gone kind of silent. I'm not trying to just be like, well, this is gonna have like an awkward pause, but hey, that's just kind of how it goes. My mind just kind of starts thinking about, wow, like that's crazy, all that stuff kind of like it kind of like shocks me sometimes just to think about all of it. So that's why it just kind of happens automatically. So much of it is just kind of like how do you say, like, compartmentalized, like it's just kind of thrown off in
Yeah.
the closet. And just try to deal with the here and now as much as I can, as hard as that can be sometimes. But yeah, we can close it off.
Okay. Thank you guys for listening to the Skyward Cast. Make sure you guys follow my man Joey Craig at Skyward King on Twitter, right?
Yeah.
Make sure you follow me at Devin_Cox. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast if you're not already subscribed to it on iTunes, SoundCloud, wherever you may get your podcast services at. And is there anything I'm forgetting?
I don't think so, man. I think we're good to go.
Thank you guys for listening. Joey Craig, I love you, man. You're my brother. If you ever need anything, let me know. And Skyward Cast, we out. Peace.